So welcome to Knox, and this is our review of the GasGas EC350f. So I've really wanted to ride one of these 350s for quite a while now. There's some big claims about these 350 engines, words like 250 agility with 450 power, and it almost being like the perfect enduro bike. And that desire to ride it was even more stoked when obviously we rode the GasGas EC300 two-stroke a few months ago, and I was incredibly impressed with that motorcycle. And if you've seen the review, pretty much everything applies to this bike that applied to that, but obviously the big difference is the engine. And do you know what? It's more than lived up to my expectations. It's been absolutely fantastic, and I'm going to share some of the reasons why I think it is so great. So one of the things that I think has been really fantastic about riding this bike is that it's given me a huge amount of confidence. Now, enduro riding, trail riding, any sort of technical trail, in fact, any motorcycling, whether it's on track or doing the type of stuff that we've been doing, it's all about confidence, really. And if you have a lack of confidence in what you're doing or in the machine that you're on, perhaps, you know, in this environment, perhaps it's too heavy, perhaps it's too tall, perhaps it's trying to rip your arms off and you just can't handle the power of it. But in this trail riding enduro environment, like, confidence is a massive, massive factor, and that's absolutely what I've had from the minute I swung my leg over this 350. I've had real confidence in it. Let me tell you some of the reasons why. So the first thing that's really given me the confidence that I've said I've had today has been the engine. What a peach of an engine. I think the best enduro bike engine I've ridden. Obviously, I know that all the professional guys and the competition guys use the two-stroke engines, and that's absolutely fine. And for the really rough stuff, they probably do have the edge on this. But for me, generally speaking, and riding a raft of different terrain and having confidence in it, this engine has just done everything that I could have asked for it. It doesn't stall very easily, which is great. Actually, we were messing around and I tried going up some quite steep, bumpy sections in second gear, just feathering the clutch a little bit, sat down just for a bit of a laugh to see, you know, would it stall, would it kick me off, all that sort of stuff. And you know what? It was just awesome. It just chugged its way up there, didn't stall, didn't get too fluffy, it found traction, and I thought it was just dead impressive. That's the other thing that this engine has done. It's just seemed to find a great deal of traction. I would argue that this motor finds a little bit more traction than the two-stroke motors that tend to spin up a little bit quicker. I don't know whether that's because they're just sort of coming into the power band a bit much and spinning up the rear, but this one just seems to find traction and it'll drive you up pretty much anything. It's very, very impressive. The other thing that the motor has is a load of power, absolutely stacks of power. You can clutch up a wheelie in 4th and 5th gear on this bike. It is, you know, it's fantastic, but it marries that without the feeling that it's gonna send you over a dike somewhere or rip your arms off. It marries both confidence and power together beautifully, like no other engine I've experienced before. It's really, really fantastic. So the other great thing, again, it's very similar to the 300 two-stroke, is the suspension. Obviously, the chassis, the suspension is all very, very similar to that bike. And again, I found it fantastic. It's very, very soft. which makes a plush ride on the type of trails that we've got. You're not like clattering into stuff. You know, you're going over it really nicely, and it is perfect for this environment. In fact, I would kind of argue that the suspension setup is more of a trail riding setup perhaps than it is hard enduro. As you can see on the front fork, the travel indicator shows that we're using virtually all of the front fork's travel. I think if you are gonna take it on hard enduro events and start whacking into stuff a bit harder and jumping it, you know, perhaps you guys are going to bottom it out a little bit, and maybe you need either a cartridge kit or some, you know, slightly more damping control basically on the front and rear. But you know, that's a bit more of an extreme environment than what we've been putting it through. But for this sort of application, trail riding, some rougher stuff, some fast stuff, some jumps as well, it has just been awesome and a near perfect setup. The next thing that plays into that confidence-inspiring nature is the lightweight of the thing. I mean, this is super, super lightweight. It's the lightest four-stroke enduro I've ever ridden. We put it on the scales with a full tank of fuel at 110 kilos. But more than that, it just feels light. You've not got that big inertia that you might think that you would have with a bigger four-stroke motor, but you just don't have it. It's incredibly lightweight. I mean, you know, you can just sort of pick it up, just move it around, swing it around, do spin turns on it very easily. Combines with the softer suspension just to mean that you can compress it down. It's just a flickable bike. It's just really, really good. I love it for that. And then it's just the other little bits that come together just to make this a really well-developed and fantastic package. Just little things that make it easier to live with. The fact that it's got a clear fuel tank, you can see how much fuel you've got in it. These bikes do not come with a fuel gauge, so that's really, really useful. Little things like you can get to the airbox very easy and take the air filter out. That is very easy to live with. Just other little things like this little grab rail here that just helps you muscle it around a bit better than I've seen on other enduro bikes. Just those little very, very well developed little features that are coming from that KTM group that sell and make so many of these bikes that all come together to make it the package that it is. And of course as well, I'm starting to see quite a lot of parts availability for these GasGas models as well. So if you're going to buy one of these and live with it, you know, parts availability is going to be really good because it's got that infrastructure in place from the bigger group that KTM is. So all these little things have come together to make a really confidence-inspiring machine, and one that I think is probably the best enduro bike I've ever ridden. And even though the harder enduro guys go for two strokes and stuff, man, if I had one of these, I'd be well chuffed. It just does everything for me. I love the smoothness of the motor, I love the power of it, I love the confidence-inspiring nature, I love the fact that it doesn't stall very easily as well. You know, for me, all of that comes together, and the suspension, and just what it is, just to be just about right, and I think it's top-notch. So I really hope you've enjoyed this review. I've had a fantastic time putting it together. I'm not sure Pete, the cameraman, has, because I've had him uphill and down dale, but it's been really, really fun. I'm very glad I've been wearing the Knox equipment that I have. I've actually been in today in the Knox Urban Pro Utility and the Urban Pro trousers, and they have just been absolutely top notch. 10 minutes into the ride this morning, I was sweating, and I can't imagine what it'd have been like if I'd have been wearing heavier textiles or something like that. This thing just allows you to breathe, and yet gives you fantastic protection as well. There's been a lot of boulders today. In fact, this is one of the only enduro rides I've been on and not fell off. So I haven't tested the protective qualities of it today, but I've always known that it's there. So I'm going to put all of the links in the description for all the gear that I've been using today. I'm going to put the link in the description for the bike and all the further information on that. Please subscribe to the channel, and we will see you next time.